Good morning. Monday. Here we are. Good morning, Ruth and Dora and Deb and Susan and Sandra. Um, so, yeah, it's sunny, which is pretty nice. It's cold, pretty cold. Um, I was looking ahead, and it seems like they've changed the forecast a little bit. Last time I was looking, it seemed like we were going to have some, you know, single digit or low, teens sort of weather. But I think they've changed the forecast a little bit, so maybe we won't be quite that cold, which is a good thing. I'm not a big fan of the super cold weather. Although I know we usually get some a little bit. Um, I like to look online. Sometimes you see pictures of like the really, really cold places and what it looks like. Um, and one I was looking at yesterday was, I think, somewhere up in Minnesota or someplace, um, sort of north, uh, in the Midwest, but north. And it was a picture of the front door um, in when it was like, I don't know, negative 30 degrees or something crazy like that. And the door, the hinges, right, were so cold, and um, the metal. So then it was on, facing the inside that was warm, and I guess it had condensed moisture. So the hinges were just covered with like frost and just growing on them, and it was a little a little terrifying. So as long as we don't get down to negative 30, I'm good. Um, let's not do that. Um, we'll stay at positive 30 would be okay for me. Um, well, I hope you guys had a good weekend. We did watch the Super Bowl. My husband was sad because he wished the other team would win. Um, and also he said it wasn't a very interesting game, which you know is fine. I agree with him. Football is one of those games. I mean, and I'm not a person that is ignorant of sport. I'm not as interested in watching people play sports as some people are, but um, I do occasionally watch it, and occasionally, I mean, I have a grasp of how these things work, but not with football. Football to me is so complicated. There's so many kind of very specific and uh, rules that don't really make much sense to me. My husband just, spouts it out though. Hey, he did this. Hey, he did that. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't look like any of that to me, but okay, I believe you. And of course, he's right, and I have no idea what's going on. So, um, football is a mystery that I have never really applied myself to solve. So, um, I probably never will at this point. I think. I think I'm running out of time to solve all the mysteries in life. So I'm gonna maybe let that one go, and turn my attention elsewhere. Um, but it was nice. We had some food. We had food we don't normally have around, and which is great. Except then you eat it all and you feel kind of weird the next day, um, and then you remember why you don't really eat like that all the time because it's just not. It's not the best. It doesn't make you feel great, but it is tasty and delicious. And Dave baked a cake, which was fun. Um, so regardless of um, what you thought about that. Um, I was very interested in the commercials. I usually like to watch the commercials because they are often kind of surprising, or there's something that is noteworthy. Um, I didn't see a lot that was particularly surprising or noteworthy. I did like they seem to have a lot of uh, commercials sort of celebrating diversity, celebrating the things that have gone on this past year, where people are trying to get the attention, get people's attention about what's going on and what has been going on in this country. I like that. Um, I liked I like that they had healthcare workers there. That's nice, but it did seem like there were a lot of people there, and a lot of people very close together. Sometimes wearing masks, sometimes not wearing masks. Not my favorite, but um, I guess in these things that they do, um, really it is only as compliant as people are willing to make it, right? And I have been reading a lot lately about this kind of fatigue, mask fatigue, and pandemic fatigue that people are experiencing. And I think it is understandable for people to feel this way, especially with the vaccine being available. I think people are going to let their guard down. People are going to start um, kind of cutting corners and maybe not taking things as seriously. But I would say to you, and you might want to say to anyone else that that now is the time to be ever more vigilant, right? You've come this far. You've made it this far, um, safe and sound. Well, um, you know exactly what you do. Clearly, you know what to do to stay healthy because you are healthy and you have been. So let's keep going with that. Let's not give up on that and maybe end up sick, right? It's like you make it almost to the end of the line. You're running this long marathon race, and you almost get there, and then you decide, nah, I'm not going to. I'm just going to sit down and stop. No, that's not going to work. You got to keep going. It does seem like the end is in sight. But as you all know, if you've been trying to sign up for vaccines and things, um, it's going to take a little while, right? It's going to be a little process until we get everybody um, vaccinated and get everything sorted out. So let's just keep going. Don't don't give up. Don't get tired. Just keep going. Um, I think when uh, the weather is a little nicer, it'll be better. We'll feel like we can be outside more, and I think the combination of being indoors so much in the winter and not having any place really to go um, is a bit much, right? It is hard to do that. So I hope that you have a little bubble, right? A little group of people that are in the same situation as you, um, that you can, maybe get together with from time to time. The best way, if you don't have a bubble like that, to start one is to just make sure that you have some people who really haven't been exposed, and give it 2 weeks, right? And let each of you be sure that no one is sick, no one's been exposed, and then, right, expand the bubble so that you um, both are working the same way and staying together, but able to see one another. It's hard, because when you do that, right, you have to trust. There's a certain element of trust. You have to trust that that person is being as careful as you are. And, you know, that can be difficult. But um, everybody, has to find their own level of um, comfort with that, right? You don't want to you don't want to live all by yourself under a rock, but you also, do want to be careful. So, you know, finding your place, finding your space and the level that you need to do to make yourself able to survive and get through this, whatever it is, um, it'll be okay. Yeah, I know. But we've been at this for like a year, right? Well, that's okay. As I said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Um, and the tricky thing about marathons is that you you want to rush. You want to get through it as fast as possible. But as you're doing that, you are expending so much energy and so much of all of your resources. Um, when in fact, even though uh, you can't even imagine feeling like you want to prolong this event, um, that is actually the best way to get through it, right? Um, to just slow down and to take it day by day, right? And not really focus on the end. Instead, focusing on today and tomorrow, right? Getting through. Um, when we look too far ahead, we are assuming things that may not be true, may not come to pass. Um, Things may shift, there may be changes. So rather than be constantly, and this is what happens, right, with these advanced plans that we make, is then when they don't come to pass or when they have to be changed, we're disappointed. We've already invested so much into this future that doesn't exist. When it understandably really doesn't exist, when it disappears, the hope of whatever that future was disappears, we're heartbroken. We are grieving this future that was only ever here, but yet it was so real, right? And that's the tricky thing about our reality, is that it exists so much in our heads. We build it before it's even there. We live in it before it's even there. Um, and then when it doesn't happen, which as frequently, or does not happen the way we want it to, or I should say the way we built it, in our mind, we are crushed. We are disappointed. Even a good outcome isn't right because it's not what we wanted. It's not what we expected. We are, and it truly is grieving, right? People will literally grieve um, what might have been, right? Which is, I've got to tell you, about the silliest thing that we can do. Um, it is such a waste of money, resources, time, right? That we would put into something that is not even here. It's just an idea. Um, be in the moment. Be ready for anything. This is the time for that. Um, there may be other times in your life where you have a little bit more leeway when it comes to planning. But even then, be careful with that. Uh, it is very easy to get yourself so caught up in what you want things to be that you don't see how they really are. And again, you're dissatisfied. Um, you're not available to even enjoy what is good because it's always so tainted by what you wish it were. Yoga is the search for truth and a basis of reality. If you are not in reality, you are not practicing yoga. If you are living in some false fantasy off in the distance somewhere, you are not practicing yoga. Um, if you are struggling, if you are facing your fears and your um, demons and the troubles that come with everyday life, you are practicing yoga, right? You are doing your best with what you have. That is yoga. Uh, it's not looking away, it's not pretending that something isn't happening. It is accepting, right? It is uh, trying to hold that equanimity, that sense of, okay, we can do this, we can get through this. Um, Knowing that there are ups and downs. This may be one of the downs, but you never know. It could be, it could be one of the ups too. Who knows what's coming? Um, you know, as hard as this has all been for us, I often think of people who are without resources and without the means to um, get the things that they need, and how hard this has been, right? Um, for many reasons, right? I mean, one big one is that people tend to, when times are good, people often have that feeling that they should extend a hand and help to other people. But when times get tight, that's when people, pull in um, and stop, right? Maybe helping as much as they could because they're scared, because they're in fear of their own situation. They don't want to share because they're afraid they won't have enough for themselves. But I would say this is the time that we need to reach out more than ever. Um, this is the time that tests all of those things that you um, believe, right? Or say that you believe, right? Kindness to others, um, concern for others, sharing. We are all one, right? It's hard to be selfish when we are all one, right? It's hard to figure, well, I have the things I need, to hell with everybody else. If we're all one, there is no everybody else. We are all in this as one. That was something that I thought, if you watch the Super Bowl, there was a special um, kind of a creepy, it was a little creepy, I got to tell you, this like CGI of, I'm not sure who it was. I think my husband said it was Vince Lombardi. I don't know who that is. Some guy. But very inspirational, I guess, something that he said. And it was very much, very yogic, right? That we are all one, that we are all in this together. Um, and that, we aren't gonna get through this until we realize that, until we think about that. We're gonna constantly have problems. The only way to kind of get through those is to work on it together. And we know this. So we'll do our best today and maybe tomorrow. And don't worry about don't worry about later in the week. We'll work on that later in the week. Um, just get through today and maybe tomorrow. And then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, let's breathe a little. Pranayama. Notice how the body's feeling. Do you have sort of tightness in certain areas? Can you sit comfortably here? Shoulders right over the hips. A lot of times we're leaning in, we're curving the shoulders. See if you can sit up and breathe. So pranayama is kind of an exaggerated breath. right? And we know this whenever we think about the breath, it changes, right? Um, the breath that we're doing unconsciously is different from the breath that we do in pranayama. It just is. The minute you bring your attention to the breath, we immediately try to improve our breath, right? We're like, oh, I feel like I'm breathing shallow. I don't know. Um, don't worry about that, right? When you are breathing automatically, you are breathing. Um, you're breathing sufficiently, right? That's not to say that we don't sometimes have sort of long-term issues with breath. Um, People who have lung function disability or asthmatic conditions, things like that, they may be sort of chronically under breathing and short of breath, and that's just kind of a physical aspect of what's going on with them. But if you have normal function in the lungs, your breathing is going to expand or contract based on your need, which is why when you're doing something like meditation, sometimes you'll notice that your breath is almost imperceptible. In fact, sometimes it will actually cease for a few moments. You'll notice that that space in between the breaths has extended. And sometimes people get a little spooked by that, but it isn't an issue at all, right? As long as you aren't trying to hold your breath, if your body is taking more time between breaths, it simply means that you have less of a need for that exchange of gases. You are so still and so inert at that point in time that your body simply isn't using up the oxygen as it normally does. It is lowering your need. And as we've seen people who are very deep meditators, sometimes actually the breath will cease for a short period of time, or as a result of sort of all the body functions go down, right? The heart rate goes down, the blood pressure goes down, everything is reduced as we are less using the body, right? The body is very still, um, almost, as in sleep, or even sort of deeper than sleep. So don't feel like you need to control your breath. I guess that's really the message I'm trying to give here, is that I think sometimes people feel like they need to control their breath all the time, every step of the way, and that somehow the yogic breathing that we do here um, is the goal, right? But it is maybe the goal when you are practicing asana, when you are practicing pranayama, to focus on the breath, to try to expand the breath, do all these things with the breath. But when you're going through your normal day, that's not the goal at all. The goal is um, to notice what's happening with the breath. If you feel tense, if you feel anxious, see what's happening with the breath, and then maybe use that to relax. But in a normal sense of just going through your day, you don't need to do anything to control your breath. You just let the breath be how it is. Knowing that you have that tool of pranayama to regulate if you find that you do feel short of breath, or there's a lot of tension in the body, right? Because that tension will interfere with your natural breath. So you may have a greater need of oxygen, but your body is so tensed up that you're not able to get it. So you start feeling kind of dizzy, or kind of exhausted, or all of the different symptoms that we can get from kind of not enough breath, yawning a lot, right? Although yawning is a special case, and there's a lot of things about yawning that we don't even really know what triggers that, and why sometimes we have such an issue with it. I do know that pranayama sometimes triggers yawning. So if you start breathing deeply, you start doing some pranayama, then you may kick off this kind of yawning cycle. So I don't really know what that's about. But it's again, it's nothing to worry about. It is very common. If you find that happens to you, it is you're in good company. It happens to many of us. So sitting up, keep that breath moving. And we're going to work on. So I hope that during that whole time that I was talking, you were just doing even breath. So when we start with pranayama, and I don't specify, even breath is generally what we're going to do. So it's just in for about as long as out. Right? And this is maybe the simplest of pranayama. When we're doing normal breath, when we're practicing normal breath, um, we can notice typically people are inhaling more and exhaling less. That's simply the nature of it, right? That inhale is what we are sort of focused on, and then the exhale kind of it does its thing. But it's important, right? The exhale is just as important as the inhale because if we aren't exhaling enough, we eventually end up with not enough space to inhale, right? We just have all this exhale stuck in there, right? So evening it out, inhales as long as exhales, and then we're actually going to move a little bit into longer exhales. So let's do that for a few breaths. Inhaling maybe to a count of 4, exhaling to a count of 8. And if you find that difficult, do 4 and 6, or whatever, works for you. Okay, and now we're going to add a little element of Agni Sara into our um, pranayama. So Agni Sara is meant to kind of heat up the body and the digestion. And I will say to you, if you've eaten something today, recently, like within, the past hour or so, you might want to be careful with this, just because we are kind of moving this area around digestive, and it can give you kind of an upset stomach if you've eaten something heavy. But if you haven't, then you're good to do this. Um, and we aren't so Agnisara can be practiced in a very extreme way where you're really drawing everything in, and that definitely, but you can also do it in kind of a beginning way. And this is kind of the way that people are just starting with it, but it's also kind of just a gentle way to stimulate the digestion without really churning everything around. We're just kind of moving things. So Agnisara is a great practice if you've eaten a lot of weird food lately or very heavy food, like yesterday, or something like, the day before, you're feeling still kind of like heavy in the digestive system, Agni Sara is a great way to do it. It's actually really good to be done on a regular basis, especially for people who have digestion problems. So a lot of times people have constipation and just a really slow digestive system. If you feel like your metabolism is kind of slow, like your heat, that internal body heat is just not really there, Agni Sara stokes that fire. Um, and it can just kind of heat things up. And so this time of year it's perfect, right? Agni Sara, you might want to avoid doing that too much in the summer because it gets that internal heat. But I think a lot of us do feel like we just don't have as much of that internal heat in the winter. um, so if you're feeling kind of cold, kind of like run down, like uh, this is just too much winter, Agni Sara will kind of perk you up. So the weird thing about Agni Sara that is kind of contrary to what we think is, I think normally when we think of inhaling, right? Inhale is we're filling up, and exhale is where things go down. But it's reversed with Agni Sara. So with Agni Sara, as we're inhaling, we are pulling everything in. And then exhale is the relax, right? So it's a little different from how we normally breathe. Um, the idea is that we're actually, no, I think I have it backwards. I think we do it the other way. So, yeah, because what we're trying to do is push everything out. And we're drawing the body in, right? So that's pushing everything out of the body. And then the inhale is a relax. See, now I've probably thoroughly confused you. So the best way to do it is to just begin. So what we're going to start to do is it starts low down by the pelvic floor. We're going to start engaging the muscles down there and coming up through the lower abdomen, the upper abdomen. So we start, and you can bring hands on your knees. So that's the exhale. As we're doing this, we are exhaling. You can feel the breath sort of coming out of your nose as you are pulling in. And then relaxing, the belly comes out, breath comes back into the body. We aren't really directing this so much with the breath, though. It's more with the body. So and there's maybe a slight pause, right? You could pause for a few moments at the top of that um, tightening, right? And you could do, this for maybe like 10 or so. Um, Agni Sara is also, it's a great abdominal workout, right? So when you first start, you may not feel all that much moving, right? It just really depends on how much core strength you have and how much connection there is between kind of your head and this area. So as we find in yoga, one of the big parts of practice is this connection. So you may find, and I find this a lot when I'm teaching is I will cue something. I'll be like, okay, step your left foot out. And people will consistently not do that. And I'll be like, what are you doing? Can you hear me? So it's not that people can't hear, it's that there's some disconnect between their brain and their body. So they think they've done it, or they're on the wrong foot, right? So it's just a matter of making that connection. And once we've made the connection, we can keep doing it and we get better at it. So not only do the muscles get stronger and more reactive to your sort of signals, but the signal gets stronger. So when you first start with some of the poses, you may be like, I don't even know what I need to do to get here. I don't get it. But as you get yourself in that position, then you're like, oh, okay. So now I see I got to do this. My leg needs to do this. I need to lean back or lean forward, whatever it is to get to that place. So let's do a little more Agni Sara, right? And you'll notice if you do this on a regular basis, that you'll get much better at it, right? You'll sort of, your muscles will be like, okay, I got to do this, and then I got to do this. Contracting, expanding. It is a very nice practice for core strength, for digestion. It is one of those kind of all around good things for your health and just everything, right? So let's do a few more because it's just so great. And then let's take a break. So you can do this anytime in any form. Traditionally, if you're doing this to sort of the highest intensity, you do it standing, and you're sort of crouched over a little bit with your hands on your thighs. That gives you kind of the best open, area to do this. But you can absolutely do it sitting. You can do it sit in the chair, especially if you were trying to just do this sort of light version of it and not the real intense version of it. Again, the only caution is to make sure that it's been an hour or two since you ate, and preferably something lighter rather than heavier. And you know why, right? Because it's just not going to feel good. You won't hurt yourself in any way, but you aren't going to feel great after it. Let your body digest the food and then get things going. But it is a perfect practice for first thing in the morning, especially on a cold day when you're just feeling kind of stodgy and having a hard time getting moving. Do a little Agni Sara. It will heat the body up, move things around a little bit. All right. Let's do a little bit of movement because I've been sitting there for too long. Sitting up tall, fold forward. Coming back up, both legs out in front. Let's point and flex. And then rotate. One way and the other. Lifting the arms, fold forward. And then back up. Let's bring the hands behind, fingers pointing away from the body. Squeeze the shoulders back, gaze up. Back up to your seat, right hand on left knee, left arm behind. Sit up tall, take a twist. Back to center and switch. Back to center. Bend the knees. We're lowering down. Right ankle on left knee. Maybe bring that thigh in, or maybe just press that right knee away if you're going to keep the foot on the floor. And then set that left foot down. Keep the right ankle on the knee. Lowering to the left, gaze right. Then back, switch the legs around. Breathe. And set the foot down. Gaze left, right knee out to the side. And then we're back. Feet to the floor. If you've got a block, let's do supported bridge. You can also do regular bridge if you want. Lifting up. Let's remove the block. Soles of the feet together, knees apart. Breathe. And then let's move into Shavasana. So you can just extend the legs, or you could stay with knees apart, soles of the feet together. Your choice. Anything you want to do to get there is fine. Resting peacefully on the mat, focusing the breath. Feel the breath moving, coming in like a wave, washing through the body, bringing in that sense of peace and calm. Breathing out any worries or concerns. Every day that we have here on earth is a gift. It is an opportunity. How will we use our day? How will we use this opportunity we're given? One of the real essence of gratitude is this sense of how fleeting our time is. So to be sad because things did not turn out exactly how we wanted them is pointless. Instead, be so glad that we're even here, that we woke up this morning to face a new day. We have more opportunities. We have a chance to do something important or fun or enjoyable or productive or helpful. At the end of a Christmas carol, right? Scrooge wakes up and he is so grateful that he hasn't missed Christmas. He has a chance. And we are all given that chance every day to do something different. If we regret something that we haven't done, do it. If we have something we have left undone, finish it. If you have someone that you are in conflict with, that you really want to resolve it, resolve it. Do it now. Today is all we can be assured of. Tomorrow, maybe. The day after, who knows? So let's be grateful for this moment we have today and make it the best that we can make it. When you're ready, then, beginning to move, making your way up to a seat. Hands together, breath in and out. Thank you for taking time this morning for yoga, for sharing it with me. I hope that you have a very good Monday. Namaste. Great. All right. You know what's next, right? Meditation, 5 minutes. So, 5 minutes of meditation might not seem like a big deal to you, right? I think a lot of times, again, people think just like, oh my God, I got to do an hour yoga every day or whatever. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do an hour of meditation every day. What you need to do is make it part of your routine. Um, 5 minutes of yoga, it takes you almost, I would say, I mean, it's different for everybody, but what we're trying to do is get into that space. That's the hard part. Once you're in that space, staying there is, I mean, it takes effort, right, to be able to sit for a really long time for sure. But it's that getting there. It's getting there. It's getting to your seat. It's actually going through what you need to do to get into a meditative state. That's the tricky bit. That's the part where people don't people don't do it, right? So if you can do it for 5 minutes, sometimes that can get you there, right? If you know you had to sit down for an hour, nobody would want to do that. It would be very hard to get yourself geared up for that. But 5 minutes, hey, I can do that. Um, so we go with that. Um, the idea also being that getting there gets easier, right? So getting into that meditative state gets easier the more you do it. So we want to do it frequently instead of, longer periods, but very infrequent, right? We want to build that commute, right? That commute in your head. So breathing, relaxing, sit comfortably. Okay, we're back. 5 minutes meditation, some yoga, some pranayama. Good start to your day. So enjoy your day. Remember, this is the only one of these days you get. So use it wisely. I'll see you tomorrow.